What's up, my folks? I hope everyone's doing good. Well, it's raining. I said I'd come in here and do a video, and when it started raining, it stopped working. Man, it's been a shitty week like this. But anyway, I got some bullshit to scrape off my boots. Got one of them hemorrhoids that keep popping up. Jason Barker. You see, you guys tell me what's going on. I don't keep up with that, and I guess all them guys are just on it right now. Hell, I heard there was one arguing with himself, putting me in there just to have something to talk about. I don't even know the motherfucker. The fucking kooks, you know. But anyway, so now the new thing is on the bullies is that Jason Barker got me into dogs and taught me everything I know. Well, that's fucking surreal. Because here's the thing, Barker. I've already put pictures on. You can't tell that lie, you fool. I've already put pictures on here when I made my first successful breed, and that was 30 years ago. Well, you were a badass 7-year-old, Barker. That's all I can tell you. You was a badass 7-year-old. Because out of that breeding right there, I produced the dog that stopped Clay Hill's hoss. And then out of the next one, I did two at the same time. The other litter produced a champion taco for Old Man Joe. But you wouldn't know that because you don't know shit about the past, the real past, other than what you've read or put on your fucking computer. But anyhow, it's a joke, guys. If you listen to that shit, you're on some shit. I will tell you what he did do. He about taught me where I wouldn't get a fucking dog from nobody else. You know, people always ask me if I want a dog. I have a lot of people ask me if I want dogs, and I take them sometimes, and sometimes I have. At that particular time, I was working at the shop, and I'd get on that damn game dog thing when Marty had it, and we'd bullshit on there, and I got a personal message from a kid talking about, do you want this dog? And he sent me a pedigree. Topside looked pretty good, man. I ain't gonna lie, it was some pretty good, real good wild side blood together, and on the bottom it was a backwoods bred dog, which, but it was a lot of that, you know, the old ox and shit, and bred back into their KA stuff, White's Tab stuff, which, you know, I ain't got nothing against none of the dogs. I've seen a lot of that stuff that didn't do so good. But I was like, at the time, me and Georgia was actually kennel partners back then too, and we had been through a lot of dogs. Georgia will tell you. I mean, we couldn't find shit that would stay good and stay in hold and all that anymore. I done fucked up my bullies and dogs from Ramsey and Paul that inbred them so damn much that, you know, they weren't the same dogs. They weren't bad. We were still able to hunt with them, and we still did fair with them. But I mean, it was usually really long hunting trips, and they weren't the same caliber dogs. So I was always in something. We had at that time too. We had a couple Turtle Buster dogs. Well, they were Don Q dogs and then we had some Tant bred dogs, which I'm pretty convinced I can never buy a good Tant dog. I just never had any luck buying them. I've seen a lot of people get them, but I couldn't do it. So oh, and we had some Red Boy Eli shit too that didn't work out. That was bred exceptionally well. They, you know, them dogs they get in a rough spot, man. They hang it up, you know. And we were hunting in some rough woods at that time, you know. I mean, really rough shit. And there was dog killers. I mean, them pigs down there are some dog killers, man. Like them pigs I send you pictures of, them are dog killers. But so I was like, fuck it, let's give him a try. He's already halfway grown. I think he was like 9 months old. The reason for getting rid of him was they couldn't handle him. He had, this is what the story was. He bought the male dog from Ed Farron, and then I guess he got the female from Backwoods. The bitch got to be 10 months old. I guess he bred the male to the 10-month-old bitch, and she had puppies at a year. Well, two made it, I guess, you know, their motherly instincts ain't very good at that age, most of them. And two made it. I got one, and Rising Star got one, and he was all right. I mean, he was a terrible son of a bitch if he was in great shape. You know what I'm saying? He was a terrible son of a bitch, and I hunted several seasons with him. But there, I had to get him out of trouble a couple times. We had to go leg the hog up because he was, you know, and get him out of there a couple times too. You know what I'm saying? He was one of them. If he was not 100%, you did not need to take him and go hunting with him because he was not that good a dog at not 100%. He had to be 100, 110%. And when he was doing his best is when Jeffro and I were both working him at the same time. You know what I mean? Two people working him. He got work, ultimately had the right supplements, and he did real well. But nothing that you really want to breed, because you could tell that we done told each other before that we thought he would quit. Just from how he was. You know what I mean? He's a stubborn bastard too. And and eventually he did. He ended up quitting on a hog, you know. And so we never bred him. And I ended up getting another bitch that one of his buddies, I guess, had, that was a spun out crazy bitch. She was a triple bred jawbreaker bitch. She was I was the only person that could touch her. She didn't eat anybody else up. It didn't make a fuck. You couldn't give that bitch no hot dog and talk nice to her, none of that, you know. So that was a problem anyway. And she wasn't that good. They was telling me how good she was, and you know, they play with rope toys, I guess, with her, and talking about how hard she could bite. And all. But she really could. And when you hunted with her, she wasn't that good a dog. She was fancy. She was a fancy bitch. That was the one reason I did hunt with her a little bit. But she wasn't that good a dog. And that shit got her in trouble one time. She got fucking boogered up so bad. Got on a bad one. You got to bite hard enough to make them squeal. You know what I mean? That's my theory. You got to have a dog bite hard enough to make that motherfucker squeal, man. If that pig is just grunting, you ain't hurting him. That's all there is to it. But, so, never bred him. You know what I mean? That's what started this whole bullshit. Well, that's what he likes to say started it all. I mean, but a lot of the shit he brought on himself, you know, with personal life and all that stuff. And, you know, he's a blamer. He likes to blame other people. Well, that's the history of the dogs that he got. And his wife now is a different story. His wife was a good friend of mine. She's still a good friend of mine. Matter of fact, I sent a dog up to her not long ago, a little female. But she was a good dog woman. She knew a lot about the medical end of it to it. At that time, she was real talented in that part. She was a good dog woman. She could handle a dog a hell of a lot better than that puke. She knew more about him. Those were her dogs before she met that fool. Those were all her dogs. And like Buster that was given to my mom. Buster was my mom's dog, given by her. They were good friends. Used to call each other every day, all that shit. And my mom said she loved the way them little black and white dogs looked, and she wanted one, mostly black, and then she sent Buster. That's how Buster came. Buster came originally to become a pet, but that shit didn't work. That was never going to work. He had to be hunted. He'd just be an asshole until you did hunt him. And he ended up being really a good dog. You know, like I say, good dogs where they were. Regardless of his breeding. Now, he's bred well. Buster's bred well. But they put Jason Barker put so much hate toward Danny from everybody when they split up. That's what, he did everything he could to ruin her name. I'll tell you one thing, one of the nastiest things I've ever seen done in this game to somebody. He wasn't going to hustle, help out or nothing. He couldn't even build a dog house. I mean, she had to do everything on her fucking own, and that's the truth. And everyone here, I'll bring people on here that were around then. We're going to have an interview with Barbie's Bulldogs, and we'll touch on this. She did everything her fucking self, breeding them dogs. And she had to sell them dogs because she was the only one making any money in that house. And so she had to take and sell a few puppies here and there to keep it going. So she took deposits on a breeding tour. I believe it was a banjo bitch. I believe. It might have been a niggerino bitch she had got a hold of, a real nice bitch. And the breedings was supposed to be back to some, I can't remember, Cujo, Trigger, one of them damn old dogs. And they couldn't get her the male to cooperate. He wasn't wanting to breed. He was wanting to, she wasn't, you know, it just wasn't happening. He was being an asshole about it. And I know how that gets. So she gave him some time off, and I guess she had to go somewhere, the story said. Well, what does he do? He gets fucked up and goes out there and gets Scully, Buster's dad, and breeds the bitch. Takes picture of it. Them hung up on each other. Back to back. Ha ha. Well, I guess the next day she got Trigger to be in a broody, and he bred her. So they got to lock up, and Scully and Trigger look totally different, in a different color scheme and everything. Well, the puppies come out looking just like the Trigger dog. So, of course, that was good, you know, for her, because it was a big fight. Well, maybe we can just not worry about it. They're probably, most likely, definitely 100% off of Trigger. You're going to ruin my fucking name, you little prick. You know what I'm saying? You know, got to pay the light bill. These got to be off the trigger. You know what I mean? If it gets that bad, you'll have to DNA them. But, got to, you know, what does he do? He gets mad at her and shows the picture to everybody. Like, look, this is what you're really your dog off of. And they're not. You can look at the motherfuckers. They act like Trigger. They look like Trigger. They was off of Trigger. You know what I mean? But that's the kind of shit I'm talking about, man. That's the kind of sick, twisted bullshit that goes on in these dogs. And that was with a fucking husband and a wife. All right? Which, that was a joke anyway. But anyhow, that's the kind of shit I'm talking about. And he wants to talk about he mentored me. This motherfucker couldn't even handle dogs. They had 2 dogs get into it. He couldn't even fucking handle them. Got his ass bit up, got her bit up. Then he wants to go boo-hoo and go to the doctor when you got a yard full of bulldogs out there talking about with a bad dog bite. Man, you better put some fucking cut heel on that shit and go to work. You know, I mean, don't even confuse me or the people that taught me with that fool, is my point. Because that's insulting to everybody around. But anyway, folks, enjoy y'all's night. I just had to get that shit straight, because that's some bullshit. Y'all take care and y'all keep on bulldogging.